Hey, what's up, everyone? Randy here for Faithful Love Game. Um, so today I would like to move ahead and start doing our procedural generation component for our game. Right now, what I have is um, I already did the basic movement for our character named Hope, and we also have one of our Type C enemies. This is Anger Type C, and once you, I also did from a previous video the the first floor material that we're using. So when I play, I can go and attack our enemy, and then we also did some basic walk animation, basic attack animation. There you go, I get attacked. So now if I hit it enough, a lot of times, then I should be able to destroy this actor or this enemy. There you go. So my next project, my next work, and what I'll be doing for this video is recreating this. I'm calling this the floor, and the game would be procedurally generating these floors, and I would start with the first floor, and from there um, the the system should decide whether to put it north, south, east, or west of the first one, and from there you would it would go again north. For example, if it decides to go east, it now has the option to go north, south, or east again. And then if it goes, for example, south, then from there um, it would go either east, south, or west. I'm still thinking if it can go back to the original tile or not. But and that's the concept of the game. So you would go on one level, it would be filled up with enemies and maybe with objects, power ups, um, and stuff like that. And then these floors would have their own biomes per se. So you would have like a desert biome, a jungle biome, a grassland biome, or maybe we'll see if we can do like a tundra biome. And from there, the player would go around and search for whatever story we have, whatever adventure there is, um, through this procedurally generated levels, floors. And then at the end, at the last one, we would put in whatever master or um, like a boss fight to finish the level. So it'll be I'm thinking of making this game really basic. It is an exercise for me. It is an exercise and a practice um, in doing a game in C++ slash on blueprints, and that's my target here. And of course, if I can make money out of it, why not, right? So I've been thinking about this for a few days on how to do procedural generation, and I'm thinking of course, I would have a component, and I would put that component within our game mode, which is right now is in C++, game mode base, and I would add the procedural, I don't know what I'll call it, probably level generator component, level gen component, and then I would add that to the game mode, and then whenever a new load is loaded, a new level is loaded, it would automatically generate that for me. Yeah, so that's the plan. I would start with replicating this floor. Right now it's just a static mesh in here. I would start with, let's see where the location is. So I would start with so this is 0 0. Oh, sorry, this floor is 4,000 by 4,000 Unreal units. I would, so it is located in 2000 2000 and 0. So if it goes 0, okay, 0. All right, so maybe I can go create an actor, and maybe let's do that. Components. Okay, let's do new, and this one would be an actor. I would call it, what's my naming standard naming conventions, FHL base floor. Okay, and then I would put it in levels, because I'm really thinking there'll be lots of elements in here, so I would put it in its own folder, HL levels base floor. Okay, let's do that. And right now I'm using I forgot what this one is called, writer for Unreal Engine. It's a free software where you can edit game in C++ and not needing to purchase a Visual Studio license. And of course it fails. I know there's a bug in there's this bug in Unreal Engine, but the C++ files are created in here. So there you go. There we have our new folder here called levels. Why did it move it? Oh no. Okay, I just dragged my folder. Okay, so we have that. We have our level. So the reason why it's showing that error is because when I put it in a subfolder, the C++ takes that folder instead of although it's saving it on the same folder. So my training is in web development, so it works similar to, you know, how basic coding is, where if it's on the same folder, it doesn't need to have references to that because it can look it up when it's in the same room, basically. So we do that, and then we build the object. We build the actor. And it takes a while, so I'm gonna pause this video. And it's done building. Let's see how it is in, there you go. So we now have our FHL base floor actor. Now I'm still thinking if I can, okay, I'll create a temporary, probably not temporary, but I'll create a child blueprint derived from this new C++ actor. Levels. And then we go create blueprint, place it in levels, call it bp underscore fhl base floor, and this will be the base blueprint for all the floors I'm creating. Or maybe it's just, that's just it, because it doesn't have, I could just change the properties on the component itself. So this is our blueprint derived from our new C++ actor. The reason I did this is because I'd like to do a initial what do you call that, mock-up of what I want for this actor within the blueprint, and then after that replicate everything in C++ and hard code whatever is in there. So what I need from this actor is the floor mesh itself, and right now it is a static mesh. Okay, let's do okay. No, I think we can go here. All right, let's close everything. This is confusing. Base floor. So I would go in here and public view property blueprint read write, edit anywhere. What do we call that? Category. All right. Level. No, floor properties. Floor properties. And then we go U static mesh. Let's see. Let's call it floor mesh. And then in here, let's go for mesh, create default sub object, that would be U static mesh. What do we call this? Floor mesh. All right, let's do that. Build, and then I'm gonna pause this video again so you don't have to wait that long. And it's done building. I forgot to set it as root, so let's do that. Oops. this is my learning curve. So that should be set up. Oops. Set up attachment component. All right, why would it not attach? Let's see. Set up attachment, root component. Floor mesh is a U-static mesh. And this is an actor, so game framework actor. All right, let's skip this for now. See what we have on our blueprint. So, okay, that's a hot reload. Let's reload our game. Ooh. Okay, let's check again. Base floor. All right. Doesn't have our floor mesh. Use static mesh, floor mesh, blueprint, read, write, edit anywhere, floor properties. Oops, sorry. Floor properties. It does have a mesh, but it wasn't attached to the root. Okay. Component. No. Okay. So I need to add a component. That's what static mesh component. That's why I can't attach it. Floor mesh. So now I can floor mesh component, and now it's not attaching. Use static mesh. There you go. Component, and then we go floor mesh. Set up attachment. That'll be a root component. Okay, there we go. Let's build that. I'm gonna pause this video again. And so, moving on. Every time I build, I'll just go and pause it, and you won't notice it. All right, let's see. Okay, there's our static mesh, floor mesh. Floor mesh. There you go. So, haven't figured out yet how to automatically set the mesh to use for this, because I'd imagine it'd be the same mesh over and over. I can just change the material to use on it. Okay, why is static mesh component? Why is the root This is a default scene root component. It can be. Why is the floor mesh our static root? Okay, so we did that in here. Set up attachment root component. Okay. So let me see. You should be in here. Environment SM floor static mesh component. Static mesh. Okay. Let me reload this quickly. Okay, open. There we go. So I still have that. Static mesh component is used to create an instance of a use static mesh. So static mesh component, and then we go set the static mesh. Okay. Floor mesh is a static mesh component. None. Alright, let's see. Static mesh component, and then we got let's see if this works. Character, no, levels, base floor. Why does it not have the static mesh in there? Alright. Viewport, wherever this one is. Floor mesh, static mesh, and then static floor, compile. Value. All right, let me figure this one out and I'll get back to you. Okay, so after some Google searching, what many developers are advising is recreate the blueprint, and that's because we change the U property halfway, midway from a static mesh to a static mesh component. So now I would have to delete this. Let's delete that base floor and create the blueprint child class. Let's do that quickly. Now, apparently, whatever was used initially to create the child blueprint from the C++ class was serialized. So it's just something I have to be careful with then when creating child blueprint and altering the parent C++ class. Moving forward. Okay, blueprint, FHL base floor. We're putting it in our level folder. Let's see what we got. There you go. Okay. Now it works. So if you drag the actor levels movement base floor, then it does that. But it seems that, okay, let's go 0. Seems that our static mesh is scaling, or scaled. Oh, that's where the pixelation is coming from. Let's see this again. I'm getting this error, and I've been changing you. Set lifespan. This error's been coming up every time I restart the game. Set lifespan. Okay, good. So let's try it out. Let's see how this thing works. That's why. So I was wondering why the pixelation. I actually resized my static mesh. I think I need to recreate a static mesh. This because I don't want to stretch my material. I'd like it to be the original ratio. Okay. Let's see. 1, 2. So I would assume this static mesh is. Let's see what the dimensions are. Floor M. Build settings. So this mesh was from the Unreal Engine files. It's one of the floors. So it's just a modified floor from the default level when you create a new Unreal Engine file. Nanite. Material. Maybe I can re-import my base mesh to be 4 times this size. Oops. All right. Collision. No, I don't have anything to import it with, so import it from. What to do. Okay, I would go. So this one right now is just want to know what the actual dimensions are. Scale. Static mesh. Okay, 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes sense. Okay, so this one, if this is 4,000, this is 1,000 by 1,000 by 100. I would go with 4,500, and this would be 500. Right. So if we scale this to 4, that means we can get that. And that's the thing, I do want to maybe I should do that. Okay, I'd like to try something out. What if I export this into an FBX file? Environment floor export. Now from there I'd like to re-import that, but import settings, material. Oh, I thought I could do the scale. Reverse, create client, level of detail. Import, okay. Import translation, import uniform scale. Let's try this. So I'll try to re-import it, but this time I'll have it 4 times its size. Reset to fix material match. Right click on the re-import material. Right click on the re-import material. Re-import, no current. Let's do that. Done. Let's see if that works or if it crashes. Hey, I think it worked. Let's see if it's generating the material at the moment. So in that case, I don't need to multiply it here, and that's what I'd like to avoid, because then it gets confusing when you just scale things up. Oops, I don't think it did. World grid material. Let's see. Where's that material? File path. Static mesh. Alright. Now it's got 2 materials. Okay, okay. And that's because this one is also using the same static mesh. Okay, that confused me a bit, but so it did work. I exported the FBX file. The thing with that though is it also scaled the material, but no problem. I can always change the material tiling size, and I would have wanted it to use the default material, but looks like it has its own default material, so you can just change it that way. Let's see if I can modify it right here. Okay, material. I wonder why it has two materials now, but the thing is, delete. Okay, let's do that because I don't want it to. Oops. The thing is, I don't want it to be confusing later on because we're gonna be switching materials on in gameplay, during gameplay, or at least in generating our floors. So I'd like to be able to do that without confusion. So the less stuff, less is more. That means I should be able to use my correct material in here. There you go. Save, and that should be the default material. All right, I'm happy so far. Now, I've been thinking of doing more stuff in it, but I guess it's worth doing the procedural procedural generator component, so we can test it out. Actor component. Okay, so how do we do that? I would need to create a new component, and I would attach that to our game mode base. So let's go ahead and create a actor component. Scene components transform and supports attachment. There's no rendering or collision capabilities. Useful as a dummy component in the hierarchy to offset others. Actor component, so I'm thinking between an actor component and scene component. It's a base class for components that define reusable behavior that can be added to different types of actors that have a transform are known as scene component. Actor components that have a transform are known as scene component, and those that can be rendered are primitive components. Okay, let's use our actor component, and then we go. All right, FHL. Level generator, level gen component. Let's create that. Again, I'd have to pause the video, save you time. Alright, a compile failed, which needs changes in here. So this is our component folder, level gen component. There you go. Again, let's fix this folder bug. Sorry, work around this folder bug. Good. And then build. And maybe while waiting for that, let's close our Unreal Engine file so we don't hot reload. Alright, it built successfully. Let's see if we can pin our project. We don't need to. Okay. So now we have our level generator component. I would want this to be attached in our game mode. So how how do you attach components again? We have Combat Manager. Okay, let's just copy that. Oh, right, okay. Let's open our game mode. It's the first time working on our game mode. And alright. Public. You know what? Let me do this from scratch so I could practice. Property. I have blueprint read only. Edit defaults only. Category will have no, I don't need that. Okay. Now I'd like to be able to access our new component. So that will be U FH. Okay. How does it work? In there, UFHL combat component. But since we don't have that yet, I would add our include FHL level gen component. And now we should have FHL level gen component level generator. We won't call it manager, but it would be a generator. Now, how is it implemented? Create default subobject. Okay, same thing. Game mode base, include. Alright. Let's do void. Oops. Let's do FHL game mode base. FHL game mode base. Oops. There we go. That should be it, right? AFHL is a component U. That's why. Oops. Okay. It is an actor. Game mode. Alright. Game mode. How do I implement this? U FHL FHL game mode base. That will be actor. Okay, let's see. There you go. So now I'd like to implement this level generator. How did I do that here? Create default subobject. Alright, this one. Set level generator component. Okay, let's practice. I like to practice. That was, what was the name? Level generator. Level generator. Set up. No. Create default subobject. A default subobject, and then our class would be UFHL level gen component, and then we would call it level generator, and then it doesn't have to be the root as long as it's created within the game mode. Let's see. Build. Okay, it has some errors, so let me see what this thing is. Let's close that, save selected. Okay, overload member function not found. Alright, let's skip this for now. Game mode base, FHL game mode base, void. Okay. In class. Okay, that's why. I need to go HL game mode base. So we could set it. All right, it built successfully, so let's open our project. All right, let's save game mode base. Oops, wrong. There should be a, yes, should be a, so here's our, and there's our level generator. Right now we have nothing in it. So we would have to, okay, so now what I'm trying to do is do a prototype of the level generator component, and what I'd like to do with the press of a key button during gameplay for it to generate a new floor. Let's start with that. Let's see. All right, key press. Key. K key. Oops. Okay. How do I prototype this? Okay. Let me create a child actor for prototyping. All right, components. Level generator. Let's create a child blueprint. gen combat component. All right. I did not know that. I did not know I could not create a child component. Okay, let's do a prototype. I'd like to create a blueprint. Create a blueprint actor component. Let's say BP. It's not official, so this should be level gen component prototype. And the reason I'm doing this is I'd like to be able to understand or at least model what I want to do with it with a level generator, and then from there, once I have it roughly working, then I would implement that on our C++, the one that we just made. So I would also attach this one. Let's see, level gen component proto. So from here, I'd like to, all right, let's open this one up. So now, show inherited variables. Let's do a function. Oh, sorry, events. Generate floor. And then on spawn. Okay. So it's what I'm trying to do is basically doing this floor. So I'm trying to generate an actor, which is the floor in this case. Now, for me to know the spawn transform, I'd like to be able to know whether or not there are existing floors previously generated. So I would need an array of, no, I would need a map. Okay, let's try this variable. Let's go spawned floors. And it would be a map of the actor itself. So that's BP FHL base floor, object reference, and then let's do a map. The integer would be the location. Yeah, no, transform. Let's do transform. Some more data in it. Okay, so now I'd like to be able to check this and see if there's an existing one. So if select, so if is valid on first, is valid, length. If length is more than 0, which means it already generated one, then it does something else. Otherwise, I would start with, all right, so if you're in a floor, I would start with 0, 0. No, I would start with, so this is 4,000 by 4,000 units. That means the center of the actor, of the floor actor, if you want the, maybe it doesn't matter. Okay, let's put it at 0, 0, 0. And let's do the same for this one. Let's go 0, 0. And then this should be at 2000. 1, 2. Oops. 4000. Oh, right, because this is 2000, this is 4000. And this should be 0. Good. This guy here should be in 0, 0. Oops. And maybe up a bit. This is enough mesh balance volume. So if I'd like to, if I want to do this, going back, if I'd like to be able to, if this is the first one, then this should be make transform, everything else, no rotation. So this would be 0, 0, 0. So that's the first one. Now, if it's true, collision default. Always spawn, ignore collisions. There you go. Owner would be, all right. And release for replication. That's fine. Okay. Then it would spawn an actor base floor on the first one. Now, okay, let's do this. Let's do, if we delete you, and that would be 4000. Delete. Let's start with this, just so we know it works. 4000. Now this key press, there's no key press in here. That means I can go to my player character and then have the prototype triggered from there. I mean, we just need a key press right now because we're prototyping. So let's go events, key, let's say K. I'd like my K key. K, letter K. There we go. On K press, I would get, okay, let's get a reference to our game mode. Outputs, let's see what we got. Event begin. Player controller, get game mode, cast to BPFHL game mode, and then we go to variable. FHL game mode. Let's call it FHL game mode. FHL game mode. So now that we have reference, let's go on key press. Let's get our game mode. Get level generator. And then generate. Sorry. Okay, why can I not Generate floor. Generate. Why is it not working? Call in editor. Okay, there you go. Oh. So level generator. Oh, okay. And that's because I'm using sorry. I'm using the C++ component. Let's go BP level generator. Right there. Generate floor. All right, so on key press, this should create an actor beside our current floor. Let's see. And this one again. Sorry, this one's I created a custom variable named lifespan. I used it once, and now it's doing this over and over again every time I close my project. Maybe I need to empty my cache. It's just weird. It's my first time doing that. Okay, so now once I press the key during gameplay, K key, during gameplay, it should generate the floor for me. Okay, there you go. Now we could walk into it. Procedurally generated. Oops, there's some clipping in there. I need to fix my material. There we go. And there's some I forgot what that's called, but I have to fix that later on my material. Okay, but if I, for example, click another one, I think it just did one. So far so good. So now what I wanted to do is, let's go back to the first one. What I wanted to do is be able to know whether the spawned one and then create another one right beside that. So how do we do that? First, let's store everything. Add everything that we create into this map. So that's the created actor. And then we go transform. From there, let's see. So if this length is 0, all right. If it's true, then let's get the length. All right, if true, let's get the length. And then we get the last one created. Get, there you go. We don't need to modify it, so values. Let's get the values. All right, how do we get this? Okay, that means we need to put it here. Let's do that. Values. Okay, so what we're doing is we're getting the transform of the last actor created. So this is the length, and the length is always +1. So we need to reduce that. Subtract. And then subtract it by 1, because the length would start at the 0. So now we use that, and now we get the transform. And it's only done when there's more than 0. So there's already one created before. So once we get that transform, we decide whether it would go okay, I'm running my math here. We would need to know whether the newly created floor has an existing one prior to that. That means it would be one step before the map. So what I'm trying to say is, when I create a floor, I would avoid creating a new one at the same spot as the previous one. So for example, if I have, let's see what we have here, levels, combat, base 4. So for example, if I have that, procedurally generated, I would not want to create one that's oops. Okay, so Unreal just crashed. What I'm trying to do is to have, for example, this is the first one newly generated. The second one should can go either here, 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 or here, because you would need your character to be able to walk to it, to the next level. Now, when generating a third one, I would avoid, for example, creating another one at the same spot as the first one. So now I would need to know where this one is, so I don't create a new one in there, and then I would be able to randomly create on one of these 3 spots. And then from there, you do the same. I would want to avoid going back to this one, so I now only have 2 choices, 1 and 2. From there, I would want to go 2 choices. Okay, there you go. So I think I'm sorting this one out. After on the third floor generated, I would only have 2 options, and that's because I don't want it to go loop back to where it was. I'd like to be able to, almost like a platform, but a big platform. I want the player to be able to go wherever before reaching its final floor for that level. And for example, and that's where the boss fight would happen. So I don't want it going back to where it started and then have the boss right there. I'd want the player to be able to, walk through the levels, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me keep this as my mental note. Now going back to my component, first we were saying first we do a check, and that check would be whether or not a floor was already created. If it's not, then so the length would be the spawn floor length would be 0. If it's greater than 0, then we generate, so then there was a previous one created. Otherwise, we create a new one from 0, 0, 0, and then we add it to our map, which is made of BP FHL base floor and its transform information. So now the second one would be to get the, if it's true, I would get the previous one. That means I would go values. So let's get the values from there. And then we go get a copy. And we'd go length, but since length is always +1 because it counts to 0, I would go subtract 1 from that, and then there. So now every time this is called, you're getting the previous transform of the previous floor. So now we have that. We go, okay, what do I do after that? Going back, if I have an existing one, let's compile this and save before it crashes on us again. So now that I have an existing one, which is on 0, 0, I would want to be able to decide randomly whether to create one in here, one in here, one in there, one in there, one in there, or one in there. So since this location is okay, so this location is 4,000 from the, all right, let's go 0, let's go 4,000, and this one should be 0 as well. That's right, that's a proper thing to do. This one should be 4,000, and minus 1, 2, okay, minus 4,000 and 0. So right now I won't be doing any vertical spawning. Everything would be horizontal in a 2D plane. It just makes it easier when generate. Okay, so if I do that, I already have this. I would want to generate either here, 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 or here. That means my location should be either 4,000 on my X, 0 on X, and then 4,000 on Y, negative 4,000 on X, and negative 4,000 on Y. Okay. 4,000. So we add 4,000 to it. Let's do that. I'd like to be able to spawn another one and get that. Rate transform. Let's go location. Transform location. Okay, no. Okay, let's break it. So let's get the location. I'd like to be able to randomly decide whether so now it needs a transform. So we go make excuse me. Rotation is 0, scale is 0. Okay, so I'd like to, how do I do this? Break X or Y, the negative or positive. Okay, so decision factor, random decision factor would be, is it positive X or positive Y? Sorry, is it X or Y? And then whether it's positive X or negative X, and then positive Y or negative Y. So our component has to decide on both. Okay, let's do a random boolean. Random boolean, and if it's a positive boolean, okay, if okay, now I'm thinking if I should have the separate. Let's do that. So much going on, so many wires around. Let's do the boolean here. If if is okay, let's switch it. If less, sorry, if this one is equal to 0, then it does that, and the transform would be 0, 0. It just gets very confusing. Otherwise, I would go with doing the same. Sorry, that one. Otherwise, I would go duplicate that. Let's go. It's saying it has more than one, so now I could look up the values. There you go. More like it. So it does that. So if we get the values in there. Alright, let's move everything out of the way. Let's replicate that. So it has its own. So going back, let's do that. Spawned. All right. Length, value. Okay. So if the length is more than or not 0, if the length is 0, meaning it hasn't created any floors yet, then it would go create one at 0, 0, 0, and then add that actor to the spawn floors. If otherwise, then it would go get the length, it would go get the transform of the previous actor, and then use that as a reference, and use that to know where to place the next one. And how do we do that? We said we have two times 2 decision factors. First is whether to spawn it on the y or axis of the previous floor or the x-axis of the previous floor. So if, okay, there you go. We can go switch, no, select on int. And then we go random boolean, true, false. And then from there we would need to go another one. Let's go make a vector. Make vector. Okay, so this random boolean is deciding whether or not to use the x or the y axis. X or y axis decision bool. So it's thinking whether to use the x or y using this random boolean. And maybe we could change this later on, but right now I just need a prototype. So that means if it is true, I'd like it to be able to modify the x, which means I would copy the y and the z values. Otherwise, I would go copy the x and the z value and change the y. There you go. So now I also I need 2 more booleans. Let's copy this, and then, or maybe just one. This is positive or negative axis decision boolean. So from there each of this would have a selection y. Let's do that. And we only need one anyway, so if it's true, that would be, sorry, this is x, so if it's true, this is a lot of space. If it's true, then this would be float plus, no, add. Float plus 4,000. That means it's decided to you go with x, and then otherwise, if it's, sorry, I don't want this here, true, otherwise it would subtract from it. So we go subtract float, no, subtract 4,000. And let's do the same in here for y. So that will be y, subtract for false, and then add for true. All right, let's see how this works, if it works at all. Let's go play. This is confusing me. Let's delete that. So now when we press K, it's okay. That's because we haven't created a new floor yet. So this will be the first floor, and then we go the second one. I wonder where it created it. There you go. So now I can go into this one. I wonder where this next one would be. Oh. How did it create that? It's creating, all right, it just created a where did this one, wonder where it, oops, it didn't make one in there. Let's see, this is huge floor. No, let's create a new one. Okay, I have something wrong with my code. All right, again, I have this. Let's move you guys in here. Layer start will be right here. So when I do that, and then I do K, yeah, it's the first one. Second one would be random, so it's probably here. Good. From there, I would go, okay, it's always referring to the first one. Just don't know why it's doing that. Could be the minus one. Let's see if this one, ooh. All right. See if it go, okay. Let's see if it keeps on creating, making new ones. Oops. All right. Let's go. All right, there you go. Let's see, K. So it did create the first procedurally generated floor. Next would be floor 1. It's right there. And then be floor 2. It's right there. K. Floor 3. So now I'm confused where this guy is. Floor 1 would be 4,000. 4,000. Okay, so it's right at the same spot of floor 1. Ideally, so what I need to do is to have 4,000. So I think it's always going back to the first floor made. Something wrong with my code. Again, let's go back. Length would be spawned floor length. Be 0. That means less than 0, less than 1. Okay. Let's do this. Less than 1. No, I don't think this is the issue, but I think it's safer to say if it's less than 1, then it does that. If otherwise, it would go here. So every time a new one is created, there's floors. Okay, let me do this. Let's go tick. So we go spawn floors. No. Print string. How about 0? Let's go. And we got floor get, oops, all right, we need to for get keys, oops, keys. Now we need to do a for each loop. For each loop we go values, and then we go get, and we go give it some space. Also go get, copy, and we print this. Floor, it's just our debug. So floor would be that. Sorry. Index, and then we go floor, transform. I don't need the transform, I just need the location. So let's use that. Break transform location. 0 so that C. Alright. Event tick. It did not know that. Event begin play. Let's do it here. Event tick. I probably disabled it. We'll see. Let's go game mode. Spawn force. There we go. That it goes in there. And we go event tick. See. Okay, I think I disabled my tick. Then let's do a key, another key. Displayed for 5 seconds. That means I'd go, let's say P. Where are my keys? There we go. P. So whenever I press P, I would see what's in the map. Let's see if this works. I don't know why it's not working. P. And that's because there's nothing in there. So we go K, so we go P. Oh, there you go. So we go another K, and we go P. Why is the next one at 0, 0? It's not 0, 0. K, and then go P. So now we have 3. It's not displaying. Okay, I'm doing something wrong in here. Get index values. location. Why is the location wrong? Do we need to put this here? Let's see. It's just interesting how the location is not showing up properly. Although you can see the floors are generated outside the first one. So we go K, P. The location is 0, 0. We go K, which is not on 0, 0, but if you type P, it says it's on 0, 0, 0. It's on the origin. Let's go create again, P, create again, P. Ooh, okay, so now we have 4 from the origin. Okay, well, at least I know it's creating floors for me. Let's go back and fix this. So if we go length, spawn floors, okay, there you go. The new ones are not added. That's why. It's because it's 0, 0. Let's try that again. Let's go K. We got 1. K. We got 2. Good. Got K. There's our third one. I wonder where that is. Is it here? Yes, it is. Okay. We go to C. Good. Now we got K. Woohoo! Sorry, I got excited. Codes that work really excite me. Okay, good. I like that. Let's go K again. Oops. So now it went back and created a loop, which I don't want because I want the character to be able to move around. Okay. So we need to do that check. That means I should be able to change this. I want to be able to do a check so that, let's save everything in there. Baseful, so that whenever I have that, and for example, another one in there, I don't want it to be to generate one right here and right there. So on the first one, it's 0, 0, so no issue there. On the second one, no issue because it's basing its information on the first one, 0, 0, so that's no issue there. On the third one, I want this to avoid being on here. Okay, let's do that first. I'd want it to not generate a level in there. That means I need to do a check on the previous. Okay. I need to be okay. I paused the video and gave it some thought. I think it would be cleaner to create an enum that would tell me whether a specific whether a specific transform, I'd put in transform because I don't want to break it every time. So whether a specific floor's transform is north, south, east, or west of another transform. So let's do first I would do an enum. Let's do enumeration E, direction. And I would do north, south, east, west. Save that. That's what we need for now. In here, I would go create a pure function that would do a check for me. So now check check floor look, make it pure. Let's see, let's do 2 inputs. It would be transform. So this transform would be reference original transform, or no, okay, main transform, and then we have another one which would be transform to check. So why am I doing this? I would want this, okay, output should tell me E underscore direction. There you go. So I want this function to tell me where a specific transform is with respect. So let's do this. I have to compile. So I'd want it to be able to tell me which direction the transform to check is compared to with respect to the main transform. So the way I'm doing it is length subtract. So what I want to be able to do is compile, check floor look. Ooh, I did not update that. This should be direction. So I want to be able to get, so from here I would only do this on the third, starting on the third floor generation. And I would want this, before doing this, I would want to be able to compare the transform of these two, or at least the location of these first and second ones. And then to make sure where this guy, the first one, is with respect to the last one. So now going back, let's do get the spawn floor, and then we go get the location of that so we go, okay, let's take everything down in here. So the main would be the floor prior. Sorry, length. It should not be the length. Ah, yeah, that's okay. So the length. So we'd like to get the transform of the floor generated prior to this one, prior to the one we're trying to generate, which means the length should be -2, because length is always -1. Subtract that. That's the main transform we're checking. Now we need to get the transform of the floor two steps back, which means I would have to subtract 3 in here and get the transform to check. I'd like to be able to know which direction is the previous one with respect to the, sorry, I'd like to be able to know which direction the floor 2 floors before that is confusing, but I'd like to be able to know which direction is available basically for generation. So to do that, I would go check, but I'm really just using the direction right now. So we go break transform. Oops. Break transform. And now I would subtract it. Subtract this location. Subtract. When we do that, we break. Break. So theoretically, when you're subtracting this 2, you'd only get either 2 floors. So this one would give me a value in the x but not the y. And then, when I do this, this would give me a value in the y and not the x. And the thing though is I'm relying with the accuracy of our subtraction. So if this one is equal to how do I do that? Absolute float, which is absolute positive value of a, oh no. So we go if is equal to 0, start with this, then it is a y. Alright, let's go select. It is a y value. North, if, let's start with that. That means it would be, okay. So now the options, if it is a 0 value, meaning the y should have either positive 4,000 or negative 4,000. The z we're ignoring because we're not doing vertical. So we do, if it's true, then that would either be east or west. So I go east or west. Otherwise, if it's false, that means it has the value. That means it's either north or south, east or west. So now for us to decide whether it's east or west, we break, we do another check. let's see, if it's true, that would be is negative. How do I check if it's negative? Okay, if it's greater than 0, it's greater than 0, that means it's positive. Sorry, this is east or west. So if it's greater than 0, if it's true, then it should be east. Otherwise, it should be west. Right? Okay, let's do the same here. If x is positive, then it would either be north or south. Let's get greater than. Okay, so if it's greater than 0, which means it's a positive value, that would be north. Otherwise, it's south. Okay, let's test this. Okay, let's do this. I want to implement this once. Okay. Let's do an if the length is more than if the length is less than 2. Right. If the length is less than 2, meaning it's either 1 or 2, well, okay. If the length is less than 2, then it would do this. Otherwise, I would print this one. Sorry. And direction of previous floor. I would print this, and then I would display it for 5 seconds. So on the third one, it shouldn't create a floor. Instead, print the direction of the 2 floors prior. All right, let's test this. Oops. Again, let's delete that and play. So now when we press the K key, it should generate a floor on the 0, 0. That's good, and we check. Yes, we have base floor in there, and then we create a new floor. Direction of previous floor west. Okay, I think I had it wrong. 1, 2. All right. Show values of length 1. Okay. Ooh, sorry about that. If it's less than 2, that's fine. Let's see again. Generate the first floor, and that would show in there. Generate the second floor, that would show in there. Okay, 4,000. That means it should be, so the first floor generated should be west of this one. of the second one. There you go. West. So we got that west. Length if. Alright, if I'm getting errors. I think it's access index -1. Okay, if it's this operation, I think. So we're getting. Okay, so on the third one. So this is okay. This is working fine because we wanted to start on the third one. Get, I think it's this guy that's alright, let's see if I have it wrong. I think I have it wrong. Let's see, generate, we check, we've generated 1, generate 2, okay, 4,000. This one should be north. If we go try to generate the third one, it would tell me which direction 2 floors prior is. North. That's good. And that should take care of the error. That's probably why it's doing that. Okay, let's test it again. Let's go K, first floor, second floor. Let's check. There you go. So we have this one should be east of this second floor, second one. Oops. North, south. Why is that? Direction of previous floor is south. That should have been east. Alright, let's see if we have east, west, north, south. So the generation, okay. Again. K, P, K, okay, that's good. If I generate P, floor 1 is -4,000. And then, sorry, floor 1 is -4,000. If that's -4,000, it would go, it would say x is not 0. Sorry, x is not 0, so it is a negative value. The value, ooh, okay. Okay, I got my directions messed up. That's why. If x is 0, so this is x, that's y. This should be west, and this should be east. This should be north. No, it should be south. It should be north. All right, there you go. C, K, P. Generate a new floor. Check the location. Location is 4,000. Y. Location is 4,000. P. Okay, this is confusing because it's saying base floor. why is it saying 4,000 when should be Y? So confused right now. $4,000 when it should be negative 4,000, right? All right. Let me go back and let's skip this check for now. Okay, and we got 0, 0. Okay, where did we generate that? X is 4,000. X is 4,000, but it generated, all right, P. If we go K, that would be 4,000, 4,000. What is that again? 4,000 minus 4,000, so it went. Alright, there's something wrong with my prior code. The third one should be in 4,000, 4,000. Okay, let's generate another one. Okay, it's missing that. So weird. Something wrong with how it's storing data. All right, rotation, add. Now, okay, let me sort this out. Let me get back to you. Okay, so after giving it some thought, I decided to recreate this whole thing, and it would mainly be something like this. So that would be the location. The thing is, I just wanted to get a decision, function or an event that would give me a decision on what direction would it be. But before we can do that, I want it so that direction isn't anything that was, that location would not be anything that already has a floor on it, or a location where beside an existing floor. So for me to do that, I would have to redo this whole thing, and I decided to use the same enum enumeration, but this time I'll put it in this one. I'll put it in our C++ because I definitely need to use this later on in my C++. So for me to do that, I'd have to delete everything in here. Delete, okay, delete you, and this whole thing. And the reason for that is I would want for this whole thing to be randomized with conditions. And I want this whole thing to give a result for our location and then decide from there. So I will delete this, and then I will, alright, I will delete this, check floor location, event graph. Okay, maybe we need that. I will need to replace this enum though with the one I'm putting in my C++. So I'm gonna hard code it. So the way I do my enums is under my components, I have enumerations, and this is where I store all my enumerations that I use for the game. I'm gonna redo the same. I'm gonna copy the same E directions. So let's create a new enum. I would call it E floor directions. Maybe just directions, because we could use this for something else later. So directions, I would have north, south, east, and we go west. And you don't need that. Direction. E directions. So let's see. Let's try to build this. See if we can hot reload it. And it's done building. Let's see if we could use it here. Let's see if I replace this with, alright, let's take that. E direction. Okay, so it's hot reloaded. I would need to open and close. Let's see. See if we can let's these two again. Alright, let's see if we could change this to E directions, no space, and that's what we want. Compile. Let's go select. U, then it would go select. We're just replacing our enum type so we can delete the old one, the one we made here in the blueprint. So this would be south, this is north, and this would be west and east. There, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3. So now we can delete you, and delete you. Replace that. See if this enum is still being used. Just memory. Oh no, let's see if we can I think we're fine. Okay. Now let's try that. Okay. Okay. So now we have this pure function which we can use later on, and here we are saying we want to select based on an enum, which is directions, directions. From there we go location. Okay, so going back again, we would want that after the first floor created, it would go here. That means the length is more than 1. It's false. It would go get the values and then get the value, sorry, get the location of the previous of the last floor that was created. From there we would do our equation here, or our function, so that as an end result it would give us a direction. Now this function should be able to recognize the directions of the floor created before that, and the 2 floors created before this one. How do we do that? So if we created a new one, this is the second floor, we need to make sure that the third floor would not be right there, right? So we avoid that immediately. So on the third one, we would avoid north, south. So south of the last floor that was created. So it would either have north, east, or west. On the third one, I want it so it would avoid creating one, sorry, on the fourth floor, I would avoid this spot and this spot, because I don't want it to do like a square and go back to the first level. That means I only have 2 options, this one or this one, right? So I don't want it to create on its east, I don't want it to create on its south. So now I only have north or west, if that makes sense. So for us to do that, I would go create a function now. And right here, so I need a function that would check 2 floors before. So this is, sorry, this is the current floor, and this is the 2 floors before. Sorry, this is the last floor, and this is the floor prior to that. So -1, -2. Now, okay, let's do a function. Generate valid random direction, and as a return node I would need it to have direction, random direction, and I want this in my event graph. Sorry, let's turn this into a pure valid direction, and I want it to be able to do that. So now okay, let's give it inputs. I would have an array of directions to exclude. Here's to exclude, and I'll explain that later, but I basically wanted to have to remove the direction that's invalid based on these checks. So I do that. Now, based on this random direction, it would tell me where to place it. If it's north, that would mean I'd have to go break, get the location of the latest one, and then you go make vector, break vector. Now we need 4 of these. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'd like to be able to break this and then add. So for the north, that would be x and y. That would be y plus. Add 4,000, then the y. And then everything else will be copied. So now the south would still be the y, but that would be subtract. So you'd go subtract y, copy the x, copy the z, minus, 4,000. Is it 4,000? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, it's 4,000 because that's the length of our floor. Now for east, so x, okay, I'm getting confused with my green is y, x is, red is x. Okay, so red is x, that means red is north. Okay, I got it wrong. We go x, positive x, let's get the y, and then negative x, let's copy the y. Now east, green axis is y, so you go east positive is y, copy x, copy the z, and then we go minus 4,000, that would be y, negative y, copy the x, y, and then z. Okay. Okay, let me test this, make sure it works. For say, every time we generate a new one, it would be north, so it would go straight north, 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 north. That means it would go in a straight line. So again, go back to our game. We go press K to create a level. This is the first one, so it's in 0, 0. The next one should be north. There you go. So it did create a north one. And then we go another one, another one, another one, another one. So now we have lots of, we'll check how many we made. That'll be 6. So if we change this to, just want to make sure it's working for all directions. North, south, east. Let's try the east. Go create a floor, create another one. And it's a long trip, but just want to make sure it's working. Another one, and another one. Did okay, that's good. I think it's working. East, south, let's see, play, K, K. Okay, that's good. And west. Let's go westward. Okay, sets a new floor. Just need a third one. There you go. Okay, so now I need this function here to get me a valid random direction. And the reason I said valid is because I'd like to exclude two directions or one if in the event that when you have two directions. So again, back on our illustration, our demonstration, at after the third floor, you only have two options because I don't want it to go back to the first one. Okay, so this one, I'd like to remove stuff. Okay, so I'll create a local variable with the directions enum, and I would call this directions. L directions. Now I will make this into an array, and by default I have north, south, east, and west. East and west. There you go. Generate. Good. So now I'd want this to remove directions based on my input from the outside. So we would go directions and go for each loop, whatever direction we're removing, remove item. All elements in an array. Remove item. And then once completed, I would go random. So whatever's left of these four directions, I would go get length, and then I would do a random. Get a copy of a random int. Range. Random integer in range. The thing is, if I remove this and then you go resize, there we go. Resize array to specified size. I just want to make sure it doesn't have invalid entries in it. Which means okay. Remove item. No, I think we need to do directions. Aha, okay. Resize, and the size would be the 4 minus number. Okay. So length of the array, get the number of items in an array. The size would be int minus subtract. That would be 4. Okay, that would be 4 minus whatever is the length of this, and then that will be the size. Because originally we have 4, whatever we remove, we resize that, and then we get a random value. Now, after we resize, we get the length. Let's use this. And then from there, length would be random integer. Max would be, okay, let's use this. The length would be minus int, so subtract minus 1. There you go. And I think we can test this. How do we do that? We do, all right. Let me do my OC stuff. So let's test this one. We'd like to generate a valid random direction, and I'd like to create an array. I need to make sure that we remove south, east, and west. That means this should only generate north. So let's do K, and then the next floor, north, north, north. Very good. So if we go remove, this should only generate south. Let's go K, K, K. See if we can reach that. Yeah, it did. And north. Here you go, south. It should only reach east. There you go. And then southeast, and should only generate west. K, K. All right. It is working as intended. Now, how do we decide which ones to remove? We would need to we would need to do a check and compare the direction of the last created floor, which would be the length minus 1, entry within the map, and then get the direction from there, and we would check the direction, check floor location, and then the one we're checking is the floor, 2 floors before that, or 1 floor prior to that. That means it would be -2. Now we would also need to check for the 3 floors prior to that. Okay, let's skip that for now. Let's take care of this. This should generate a direction. Main transform, just want to make sure. Main break transform minus, so you subtract the location and then check if your x is 0, it has a value, or other than 0. If it has a value other than 0, which means it's true in here, true, that means, okay, if it has a value, if x has a value other than, you know what, let's do this. X has a value other than 0. If it's true, then it would be, okay, x is red. Yes, x is red, so x is north and south. If it's true, then it would be north or south. Otherwise, it would be east or west. Now, to do whether, which one is it, you would go check. If x is not equal to 0, meaning it is either south or north, you'd want to get the okay, I think this is where the error was. You would want to get the value of x not the value of y. Okay, you would want to get the value of x and see if it's a positive or negative. So if it's more than 0, that means it's a positive value, which should be 4,000, you know, northward. That means x 4,000, so 4,000 that direction is north. Otherwise, if it's more than 0, if it's that would be less than 0, because we already filtered out the 0 value, so it would be a negative value. If it's a negative value, which means it's minus 4,000, then that would be a south. Okay, why do I keep getting this? Oh, because we don't have a value yet. So let's go here. And then at the same time, if x is 0, that means the previous transform, the previous location, or the location we're checking, would be either west or east of the current one compared to the current one we're comparing to. So that would be false, west and east, and then we go get the value of y. So north, south, east, or west. So if the value of y is positive, which should be positive 4,000, that would be east. If it's negative 4,000, that would be west. Okay. Now let's give this in here, add or make. Make north, and then we would want another one direction. Now we would want to, okay, maybe we need that. Now if our current length is okay, let's do this. If our current length is less than 2, that means we only need 1, right? Remove array element bin. And again, it's because once we have our second one, then we go, the length would be less than 2. That means the length of our spawn floor, this less than 2, that means it's 1 or 0. No, I'd want to be able to, it's going to show errors anyway. It should be less than, if the length is less than 3, okay, if the if the length is less than 2, which means we only have 1, that means we only have the first one, then it can get we only need to remove one direction, which is where that first floor is with respect to the location. So if it is just 1, then we only restrict 1, true. Otherwise we restrict 2. So we go make array, and then we go first one, and then we do the same, okay, do the same, but this one would be okay. Now this is making me confused, but I think I'm on the right track. You'd want to restrict 2, but how do you compare that? You would compare that with and now I have to go back in here. So we got the 1, we got the 2. So if we only have 1 in here, right, we only need to restrict this direction, which is currently the south. So now you have north, south, east. North, south, north, east, and west. But if you have, otherwise, if you have 2 or more, you would want to restrict. So if you're adding this one, okay, so let me go back to my function again. So first, if length is equal to 0, I change that to 0, then it would create 1 in the origin, or 0, 0, 0. So okay. Length is equal to 0. Now I need something to, otherwise I would need to do something if the length is equal to 1, meaning it's already done. Otherwise, so that would be this check. I would need to do a check if length is equal to 1, meaning we only have one floor created, then I would only restrict, okay, let's do this. I would first restrict this one, which is, all right, so if I only have one created, then there's no restriction. Okay, so why am I, okay, there you go. This is what I'm missing. So there's no restriction on the direction. So if it's only one, then if it's only one, then I wouldn't put anything in the array. Is that right? There you go. Otherwise, I would do another check and see. So if it's true, then I wouldn't do anything. So this is let's make it floors created 1. This is floors created 0. Floors created 0. Okay. Now from here I would go select. And why is that? Because I want to check if the length is equal to 2. That means if I already made 2 of them, then I would have to make sure that it doesn't include, so if I have 2 of them right there, it doesn't include this direction, which is with respect to the second floor created is south. So I need to make sure I restrict the south. And how do I do that? I would get the transform of the second floor, and I would compare that with the first floor. That means this one minus 1, so this is 2 minus 1, 1, and that would be the first item on the map. And then I would use that as a comparison, and then I would go get the floors, 2 floors prior. So I would go 2, that means 2 minus 2 is equal to 0, which is the first floor we created. I would get the comparison direction and I would add that to, there you go. So if it's equal to 2, I only made 2, then it would go restrict one of the directions. So this is floors, I'll put this in so it doesn't confuse. All right. This is floors created to, and it really helps me think about when I do comments like this. So I would differentiate, and this would be, otherwise if it's more than, it's okay, it's not 0, it's not 1, it's not 2, that means it would be 3 or more. So if we create a third one, we've already created a third one. For example here, okay, here I would restrict this direction, which is east, and I would also restrict south. That means I only have north or west to go after this one. How do we do that? I'm going to restrict two. One is the direction of the one prior, which should be, in this case, would be east. And next I would do a check of, okay, so I would do a check. This one should check, this one should check the relationship between this guy and this guy, because if this is, oh, hold on, if for example we have this, then now you would automatically restrict that. So now you have 3 spaces available. But if you have this, then you only have 2, 1 and 2. Now this gets very tricky. I would do a comparison. Okay, so if this direction is the same as this direction, meaning if this is east, okay, maybe you can do a check. If it goes this way, if this is an east, sorry, south. So this one prior to that is east, south, and then this one is also south. That means it's in line, it's in an array. That means I only need to restrict one. But if this one is not equal to that one, because in this case is eastward and then southward, then I would have to restrict 2. How do we do that? I would go with another check. Okay, maybe we can do, or floors are in line, or in a line. So if floors are in a line, that means this should be 2, this should be 3, is valid. Okay, if alright, let's do another one too. Otherwise we would go do another array. Okay, let's separate this so it doesn't confuse me. I keep saying us, but really it's just confusing me. So if I do select, and then we go, if this one is equal to that one, okay, if oops, if this result is equal to this result, if this result is equal to that result, you would use this one, which means you would only restrict the one prior to that. Otherwise, you would restrict this. Okay, so this check is, let's move you out of the way. You can get really confusing. This check is for you. And this check is for you. And this check is for when floors are in a line, and this one floors created 3 and not in line. C. Floors. Okay, when floors created is equal to 3 and recent floors are not in a line. In a line. When recent floors are in a line. Okay. For my sanity's sake, let's do that. Actually, don't need that. Okay. So to do that, all right, let's see what we get here. If it all works, let's delete you and you. Let's go K, the first one next. All right, we got a south. Now let's go. Okay, why is it out there? P. There's something wrong with my equation right here. The third one is over there and not connected. Attempted to array, okay. From -1 from array volume of values of length 1. So we reduce okay. Oh, if it's true, it's true. Let's see if we can take an invalid one. Oh, okay. That means, okay, that's where the error is. So if it's equal to 1, then it should be invalid. So that means if we need to do a check in here, is valid at index 0. If it's invalid, if invalid, there we go. Then we go, there's no restrictions, meaning because we only have one, then we can have any direction. So now we go, all right, we go direction, length, random integer. There you go. Let's see how that works. So now it can be any of the 4 directions that we've already set: north, south, east, west. Okay, let's see if it works. First, second, where did the third one go? It's back to 0, 0. That's bad. Fourth, it's here. It went back. That was the third one, right? Okay. So, which we now have for, it's going back and forth. One from call function. Something wrong here. Is valid at index 0, then you would go array and then remove whatever was restricted. After that, you resize, and your new length would be L directions local. Where is my L direction local variable? Spawned floors, local variable. It's weird. Okay. Local variable, north, south, east, west. So now the length would be 4 minus. Okay, is this correct? So it's valid. So we go true. And then once completed, we go for directions to exclude 4 minus whatever direction is in here. Then we go resize, and then we get a random. Once we resize that, we get the new length. And then we go get, subtract that, random integer, that would be 0 and max, which is, then we would get that out of there. So event graph, again, if it's true, meaning the floors created is 1, then it shouldn't restrict any. But if false, meaning it could be 2, if it's 2, it should, let's see, should restrict at least 1. And that one is where, that one is the direction of the latest floor made. compared to with respect, sorry, the checking the direction of the floor's direction prior to that. That means -1. So if you have 2, you would go -1, and then you would get the array number 1, and then if it's 2, you go -2, then you would get the array number 0. So main compared to the one prior to that, and then get to direction, and then restrict that. If we restrict, so we would go true to, we would go true in there, and then that becomes the restriction. Now, I don't understand where the issue is. We go K, first one, second one. All right, second one is to the right. The third one is, I'm afraid, back to 0, 0. The fourth one would be there. Okay. So far it's going back to 0, 0, even though we already restricted that. So if the value is equal to 0, false, then we would check if the value, okay, you know what, let's do this. If value is equal to 1, then it should restrict if the value is to 1, okay, there you go. If I would go up to value 1, making a third, making your third floor. See if this works. Invalid array. That should show up an invalid array. That means it shouldn't restrict anything, and it would just get a random direction. Let's try that. So if you go play K, which is 1, K, which is 2, so now 3, making your third floor. Okay, so we got that so far working. Event graph. All right, let's go length, making your third floor. That means this should go right there. Yeah? Okay, let's try this. Play K, first one, second one, which is -4,000. Okay, south of the first one, and then we go 0, 0. It came back in. Oh no, hold on. 0, 0 minus. It now has 3. I don't understand why it's 0, 0. -4. Okay, now it's 3, and then the fourth. That's weird. I don't get it why it's 0, 0. Alright. 16. Everything's in... Okay, there's something wrong with the y. Everything's in x. Break that. Alright, this is getting confusing for me. So y, x, and then we go y, x, z. So we differentiate that. Now let's go back on this again. I would, if index direction is okay, I would do after this resize. I think there's something wrong with the resize. For each loop, we go print, and then we have 10 seconds. Let's change the color in string, and you'd have direction once completed. Okay, so every time we generate a random direction, it would read to us our direction. So okay, let's try this. If we go K, this should not show up because this is the first floor we're making. On the second one, now it has a valid one, so it would go through this randomizer. It should go through 1. If 1, then it would go true, and it would generate us for us 1. Let's go. Okay, it did not. Okay, I think I can't use a pure one here. Let's just do this. I don't know if that's the case, but it's worth a try. K, 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 K. Now it's just going. Okay. Attempted to access index number 1 from call function length 1. Otherwise it would go, okay. I think it's working and it can't be pure, which is fine. The reason being it's doing some stuff with, it's doing some resizing. Well, I'm not really sure, but somehow it just works better that way. From there, I would go, there's something wrong with, it's saying attempted to access index number 1, number 2, but call function values length 2. So weird, because if this length is, Right, is this a copy? Get copy. Since it's a copy, changes to this side will not be propagated. That's okay. So it is a copy, that's not the issue. It's having issues here. It's trying to get a map value of length 1. Attempted to access -1. If you have 1 and then you would minus okay, when does this start? Let's go K, no error. We go K and K. Okay, so it does have, it shows the error in here. Floors created is okay. Let me sort this out and then get back to you. Okay, let me do this one by one. So let me make a variable, directions to exclude, and make that a constant. So now, based on length, switch on int, no, yeah, switch on int. So default would be directions to exclude. If it's -1 is 0. If length -1 is 0, 1 minus 1 is 0, then the directions to include would have an invalid array. That means when it goes in here, it's is valid index false. It would go directions north, south, east, west, remove okay. Length random integer would get the length, which in this case 4 minus 1, and then that would be our index number. So we use that. So if we get a random number from 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, or 3, which should be 4 minus 1 is 3, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Then from there, that would generate, it would get a random direction and use that. Okay, let's try that. How does it look like in here? Okay, direction otherwise, that will be 0. Otherwise, we go print, creating a third floor. So this should only make 2 floors. Okay, let's differentiate this. This is okay, wrong. And then this one would go, I would want this to be, okay, it's literally the only material that we have. That's fine. We would go K and then K. we don't have issues. So if we go K and K, where's that one? It's right here, and then K, creating a third floor. So now we've solved that issue. Now let's decide what to do with our directions to include. Oops. When the length is 1, length is 1, no sorry, this is 1, 1 minus 0 minus 1 equals 0, that's why it's 0, so this is 1. Okay, let's move this in here. Floors created 1, and we now need to set, what do we do if the floors created is 2? That means minus 1. So if we have 2 and then you subtract 1 to that, it would if you subtract 1 to that, that would be 1. What's happening to me? So now we would set this. How do we set this? We would set it so it would include 1. It would restrict 1, which is, delete that. So this one is, all right, when floors created 2, it's I would use the direction of the first one to the second one. Use that. Okay, let's try that. Otherwise, we're making prints. Again, let's do a test. Creating 1, 2, so this would be 4th floor. Yeah. Created. No. Floor. Creating floor 2. You know what? This should be floor 2. Creating floor 3. This should be creating 4th floor. Creating floor 1. Floor 1. Okay, let's see what we got. Let's go play. Let's create first floor, and then we go second floor, which is south. Okay, and then we go third floor, which is not happening. We go third floor. Alright, why is it not working? So weird. If default execute. Why is it not adding? Oh, okay, this one. That's why. Again. K, first floor, second floor right there, and then we go. Okay, I think it just made another one. Oh, right there. Good. And then that's a third. We go fourth floor. Okay, that's random. It's all straight. See if we can get east, west, and north. That's good. Again, it's making a lot of straight one. Okay, that's random. North, south. Did it just make a third one? Okay, why did it make another one in the base? Why would it do that? It just said again. Why would it not remove that? 1, 2, that means 4 minus 4. We go east, south, north. Okay, so it went in there. So after this one, we'll go east. Why does it have a north? And that's the thing. Why would it have... Okay. So if we go play, and then we go create the first one, create the second one, and the third one should show me 4,000. So minus x. Show me which directions it chose from. See, east, south, and north. It shouldn't consider north because we already have a floor in there. And where is it? Where is that new floor? It's at 0, 0. Okay. There's something wrong with my there is something wrong with the direction. This one, creating floor 3, directions to exclude. Okay, let's do this. Print. Direction, oops, append, remove, let's go orange, show for 10. Okay. So this should show me which direction it is restricting. Play. So we go K. That's second. Will be right. So now it should restrict north, south, east, and west. So it should restrict west. Remove south. There you go. There's something wrong with my equation. Subtract location. Okay, so if the location is, oh, there you go. I know why. Because if you subtract the latest one from the first one, that means, so for example, if it's in the north of the first one should be in the south of the second one. Now, When we do that, when we subtract the second one from the first one, that would give you a positive, okay, that would give you a positive value, which means, all right, if we main transform to check, if it is positive, okay, this is switch. If it is positive, then meaning it's more than, again, if x is 0, then it's a y axis difference. Now if your y, if x is 0 true, that means the difference is in the y. Now if your y is positive, meaning your latest floor is on the north of the floor prior to that. No, this is y, so it's in the east of the floor prior to that. That means if it's on the east, positive should be okay. Why do we have, if 0 is, x is 0 true, then we use y. If false, then we use x. Okay, and then we go if true. So x is 0, meaning the direction difference is in the y, or east or west. Okay, this is confusing. So we go south, north. If we're saying x is 0, then y should be east or west, right? Now if y is positive, meaning the latest floor is on the east of the previous floor, meaning the previous floor is in the west of the latest floor. So if it's true, meaning positive, this should be west and this should be east. Okay, again, if we're trying to we're subtracting the location of the latest floor from the floor prior to it, and then the results would be tested. If x is 0, meaning they're in the same x-axis, then we would check for the y. And then when we check for the y, if the value here is positive, meaning greater than 0, then the second to the last floor is in the west of the latest floor, because the latest floor is in the east of the second to the last floor. So true is west of the latest floor. False, meaning it's a negative value, meaning our latest floor is on the east of the second to the last floor. And if it's false, if x is not 0, meaning y is 0 and x is either north or south. So if x is positive, meaning the latest floor is in the north, that means we're restricting the south, because that's where the second to the last floor, south, and then we go north. All right, let's test that again. Play. So now we go to the first one, we do the second one, the third one, should go either north, south, or east, but never west. So it should restrict west. There you go, remove west, and then it's either in south or north. Yes, that's where our problem is. So fourth. Alright, I think it's it should start working now. Let's delete that. This is a third. And then if okay. So now I know there was a dilemma. If we have this guy in here, so that will be the second one, and this one will be the third one, then you can have three options in there. But if you go this way, you only have two options, north or west, right? So we're doing this check. If this relationship is the same as this relationship, then you can have three, and then use that, remove that that direction, and then have the three other ones available for random generation. How do we do that? We do a check if the latest and the second to the last direction is equal to the second to the last and the third to the last direction. Alright, this is and we're saying that we're only restricting let's do this. Creating floor 4, and we're saying that we would either restrict 1 or restrict 2. How do we restrict 1? We would restrict 1. Okay, this doesn't work. We would restrict 1 if this is in line. Otherwise, we would restrict 2. Now, the thing with this is you would need more pins if I make more than 4 floors. That means variable direct. Set the value of variable to include default. We need to do the same for that. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We can just add more pins and then do that as a restriction. So now we have, I would start with 7, 8, and then 9. I would start with 10. All right, let's try that. Play. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ooh. 7, 8. That's a long ways. And I think it's working. How many? That's 9. We have one more. 10. See if we can make 11. East and north. 11. 14. Okay, I'm making 14. We got that. It's a long way to go. Did it go back? That's good. Okay, so this is where the issue is. Now it would go, oh no, that's okay. Because it wouldn't go back because of that limit. So now we'd go K. How many do we have? 15. That's weird. 1, 2. Alright, I think it's having an issue on the limit. We can restrict that. 16. So maybe if this, so right now we were saying we have 9, we have 10, right? So if if 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I would go 10, creating floor. So that, okay, I think it's passing through using the default. So now we need to restrict it. We need to make sure that we're only making floors until the 10th floor is done. So we're saying if this one is greater than or equal to, this one is greater than or equal to, no, if the number is greater than or equal to 10, can't make, let's just put in, can't make a, oops, let's go print, can't make a new level, or levels number of play. Let's go K. K. Where did it go? Alright, K. Oops. If it's greater than or equal to 10. Oops, I'm sorry. If it's less than or equal to 10. Length is less than or equal to 10. Alright. 1, 2. Alright, that's confusing. Can't make a new level. 10. 1, 2. So that's 2. 3. That's cool. 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, that should be 10. And then we go 11. Okay, That means if it is greater than, less than, or equal to 9, okay, so we're not confused. Let's go is less than. If it's less than 10, it's less than 10. Let's see how many we can make. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Alright, that should make it 10 floors. See our oh no. Okay, it's locking. Sticky keys. Where do I go from here? Alright. We can go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should be the fifth. Sixth. Let's explore this randomly generated floor. There should be 7. Oops. I did not see that coming. 8. And this should be 9. See where the last one is. Yeah, and this should be the 10. Okay, I think that's it. So far it's working. I'll keep this debug in here. I'll keep the code as is for now. And that should generate, that's, it wasn't, sorry, it took me a while, but I guess that's just part of the learning. I had everything in my mind, but you know, when you do the code, it's very much different. Okay, let's see if it's doing the same thing. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. So it should be right here. Okay. So 1, 2. Okay, that's different. So good. At least the random direction is working. There you go. All right. Thank you for spending that time with me. I know it's a lot. I'll make sure I'll add in chapters to this video. It's a very long video. It's almost 4 hours by now. But that's my process in creating my level generation component prototype. After this, I'll see how much of this I could convert to my C++ component. And thanks for your time. Once again, this is Randy. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and have a good day.